We're bringing you on because we wanted a different perspective on the Oilers power play, which, I mean, a couple years ago set the record for power play percentage in a season. And then last year during the playoffs had some great moments, but this year it's just been awful. So before we maybe get into the struggles, I want to establish a baseline and kind of go with a question of what do they do well when they are humming and they are rolling?
They are unpredictable. They are with a bumper, without a bumper. Who is the bumper? Nugent Hopkins wanders. Obviously, we know what Connor McDavid does. He wanders behind the net. You give him an inch to the inside, he will climb behind your F1 and attack the middle with kickouts. That's where the famous, below the dot to goal line one-timer comes from. Draisaitl is typically from what McDavid does to set the table in that position. And then Draisaitl comes out with the big paddle and gets his chipping game in place. But, one of the things I wanted to do to start off this segment was last year's playoffs. They were outstanding. They could score off the rush. They could score off ozone play. They could score off broken plays. They could score off puck recoveries. Here you go. Puck recovery. Boom. Low to high. They could score off chaos after a Boosh bomb. You name it. All five guys were implicated. Yes, most of it runs through possession-wise, runs through Connor McDavid, but it's how efficient everybody is in every spot. The only 1 out of 5 guys really holds his spot the entire time, and that's Evan Bouchard, right? He plays between the dots on the blue line. He knows when to distribute, and he knows when he's set up to bomb pucks at the net. 92 miles an hour, chaos, and they get loose. One of the other things they do really well down low is not only do they screen deflect, they were good at recovering rebounds and recovering loose pucks in the corner. All those numbers this year, all of them, are down significantly, which then means your zone time goes down a little bit. Again, they still have a lot of zone time because of the possession numbers of McDavid, but you see all these rotations, and they were able to create in so many different ways. Hyman scores in multiple ways in these clips. Here he is scoring again, where he just fades out of that bumper spot. These guys are artists in the way they play the power play. They have guidelines. They have some support through, obviously, the coaching and the pre-scout. And then they go out and determine. This has to be a partnership with Glenn Gulutzan so that they have a ton of ownership on how they play. But again, look at pressure. They move pucks around. And what are they going to do? And then one play we haven't seen nearly enough this year is the famous Hyman get all straight and just the scarecrow stance and just get the little tap in back door. And this year it's significantly different, and the numbers prove it.
Yeah, AB, we got a couple of those boards there to flash up with those numbers. I like, put that one up. 2024 playoffs and where they stacked up, where they were in the 2022-23 season. Like, you look at all those numbers and then you compare it to this year, and it's abysmal. Like, they're 27th in the league. It almost defies logic in a sense. Last 5 games, 2 for 13. Like, it is crazy. So what's been hurting them this year?
There's multiple categories. I had already alluded to puck recoveries is way down. Their percentage of shots that actually hit the net, way, way, way down. And what they're creating off the rush. They still get great controlled entries. It looks like a great entry. That would check a box, but it's the play after. Like in football, yards after the catch, yards after first contact, or whatever the case may be. That's not there as much. And these are some clips from the last 5 games. Here they corner themselves on the half wall. Watch Riley Smith. He's not stupid. You know that tap back's coming on the wall, lays the stick right there, and they fall for it. Typically, what we've seen over the last 3, 4, 5 years is they don't fall for those typical things. Here, all 4 guys not in a position to support McDavid, which means what? He has to relinquish possession, which the goalie knows. I know I can go out and play this puck. There's nobody coming on the forecheck. Here, they can squeeze McDavid. He has 0 support. Even if he wanted to kick it out right or left to somebody, nothing. So those were the entry clips. Now, offensive zone. You look at Minnesota playing a lot tighter. A lot of teams are starting to really figure it out that at the end of the day, the slot represents about 80% of goals. So they're playing tighter, which means they can also be closer on puck recoveries, which means if you aren't there with numbers, a lot of one and dones. Here, watch how everything kind of slows down. They've got the possession, they've got the smarts, but there aren't any seam passes available. Now, even if that shot gets through, there isn't an Oiler in sight, which typically we would see a Hyman, or if Corey Perry has to go in his place. Again, watch Minnesota, super tight. They're not going to chase too far above the tops of circles. The seams are taken away, sticks are in the way, and it's messing with their visuals. Foligno went out, pressured, came back again, boom, super tight again. And that's what I think more and more teams are going to play with. And they're going to say, you know what? Maybe we'll concede more Bouchard bombs from the blue line. What we're not going to do is get outnumbered at the net. We're not going to get outnumbered right at the net front for those tap-ins and those chaos situations. What we're going to do is say, no more seam passes. The other part is when they hit the pocket, typically they make goalies move. That one, Allmark was set well before the pass. Watch again. They're going to move this around, and you're seeing it almost slowing down a little bit too much. Watch Allmark. He's set already. Like, they're not having to make goalies move, post to post or get surprised by a particular player. And I mean, there's some good puck recoveries here by Edmonton, and then they kind of shoot themselves in the foot. 2 mishandled pucks in this sequence, and it's not really what the PKs are doing as much as they're not feeling it at times. Then they force plays. And again, the other teams are going, well, let's not chase, because we chase, we're going to get picked apart.
So if you were in charge, would you make any personnel changes here? That's something we've been debating now for a month, but it has basically been that same 5-man unit for the last number of seasons here. And even before that, it was just Barry for Bouchard, and it was the same group of forwards. Do you think maybe with Evan Bouchard, who I just looked at the numbers, he is averaging for every 60 minutes worth of power play he's on the ice, he's having 12.5 shots blocked. That is insane. That is more than a shot every 2 power plays or something like that. It's crazy. What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.